The following information was gathered and composed in 2004. In the October 23rd, 2008, the what you call the infinite, or the mother goddess, the tiny particles of substance, that is the many, remade the cosmos. The events below may or may not be happening. Not sure. I am sure, actually. It is both. And when you understand how dimension works, you understand why it is and it is not. So it is for those who exist in the third dimensional physicality. It is not for those who have moved beyond this system that is timeless here, that is not so physical and not so rigid. But as of 2005, things have changed, and that before this used to happen, and this is no longer happening. The title is The Illuminati and the Trojan Horse. As we once again prepare to share the information with you, I have to caution you not to read this transmission if you do not desire to hear the truth. Indeed, many earthlings are so complacent in their everyday routines that they do not wish to pay attention to matters that are considered unsettling and far-fetched or revolutionary. It threatens their very egocentric self and security. But we here at home do indeed understand your position. When the priority is to maintain the status quo at all time, at all costs, then in truth you are not ready to hear the truth. That is better to you remain in the dream or nightmare, the proverbial ostrich. Hide your head under the sounds, and you will not hear anything, and you will not to see the end of your physical life approaching. This does not interact with the no pain, no gain belief. Then you deserve what you get. Indeed, this is not a criticism, it is what it is. And this is my disclaimer. Now, if you have the attention of those who truly have a need to know, be patient, relax, and allow your soul essence to use discernment regarding about what you're about to read. Many aeons ago, millennials ago, far before the current history of your world that was locked and saved for you, a great battle was fought. It was one that was brought the unsavvy factions of the darkest of the dark soul to enter into mortal combat with the gladiators of the Christ light. That auspicious time, a term coined that symbolically represents a lack of light, the Illuminati. In its basest sense, it is those who have no light to shed. The combat was initiated as a direct result of the Dark Legion's desire to perpetuate pure evil amongst all worlds. In order for this to be successful, all life forms that oppose this spiritual slaughter would have to be eliminated. It was then, nor is now, an issue of disbelief regarding Prime Creator's existence that so fueled the fires of Unclean desires to gain control, total control, over all galaxies, all worlds. It was, and still is, considered to be the ultimate revenge against the Creator's spirits for adamantly rejecting, exiling those forces that promulgated this ease of the heart, the mind, and spirit. The anomaly present at that time was that the very force that sought to destroy and to establish anarchy was composed of life forms of very low intelligence. Those ones were robotic in nature and were supplicant to a group of highly evolved but lower-based vibrational beings. It was those who were the leaders who had carefully designed a type of blueprint which, if followed without any interference, would have birthed a race of analogous misfits, a race of carnivorous life form possessing a diseased DNA, which because of the non-ceasing inbreeding would ultimately cause mutated births. A small segment of their plan was to interface with both male and female beings, thus spread their seed throughout all galaxies until such time that not one shred of spiritual essence would remain within the physical vehicle. If that had been permitted to occur, all of the worlds the Creator and His creation has so studiously formed, all life forms created in the image of God, would have become the hideous caricatures of the beast. Now you and I, we all have met these ones by their nature of very automatic. I just say that people who are like talk like broken records, who repeats themselves, has no originalities, are forms of these that would attack you for no good reason, or some reason of egocentric self being endangered or feeling itself being endangered. And so it was with those who held the reins of the lower realms of the children of a lesser god, sought to promote the veils of illusion and deceit amongst all life form, including the various genetically encoded ones who performed their nefarious deeds. These leaders have for centuries segregated themselves from all other less evolved beings. In doing so, they chose to breed only with those male and female entities that were on the same level as they themselves were. Thus it was that to the progeny of these matings, raised into majorities while having learned of dark alchemical methods to taint and destroy all others. What you understand is the royal house of the UK, the presidential leaders of the US, and Europe and China and all the whole world, the 1% that control this world. Or maybe half the percent of 1%. Now, prime creator goddess, and all the spirit forms, star keepers, did indeed design a divine plan to serve and protect the all soon-to-be forms of God I Am. This plan requires volunteers from all nations, all races, to enlist in this the grand battle. Creator and his recreations engaged the beast in his lair, that which is known as the flaming sword, hurled by Creator in the midst of the very, very large world occupied by these creatures. Immediately upon the issuance of the sword, all volunteers, all beings from all worlds, set upon the legion, issuing the cry, "No quarter shall be given, no mercy shall be shown." Indeed, it was not. No worlds was left. No words in human language can adequately describe the firefight that ensued. The battle was fought with lasers you are well aware, as yet unfamiliar with. The firefight raged for 6 Earth days before it ended. All rested on the 7th day. That is the truth of the Genesis. Oh, God created the world, and then on the 7th day he rested. Yes. Extraordinary numbers of animal life which has been used for sexual purposes with these genetically altered monsters engaged in the battle against the prime creator's force. These animals were part humanoids and part animal. Indeed, they were crazed beasts. They too were destroyed. Many brave and generous souls ascended to God during that time. All were aware, prior to the battle, of the enormous responsibilities each possessed. All performed in such extraordinary fashion to attain victory while being mindless of their wounds, even though many, many wounds were mortal. But the 6 days and 7 days fight repeats again. When you fail to learn a lesson, you repeat them. So humanity has repeated this 6 days and 7 days battle. Was what you would call the last 7 years. And yes, on 7th day we will rest. This is the 7th year. The last 6 years was that 6 days. All of the most evolved souls of the warrior and teacher's realms. Each has delegated his or herself to the most evolved personal and planetary objective. The processing and expansions of creator and creation teachings of totality of the infinite expressing of God in each and every molecule of energy, both then and all possible futures. Each knew the truth of futures. They were aware of that is idiocy to doubt possible futures, but rather to know that the futures was possible. As the great battle abated, many of the leaders of the Illuminati escaped to distant but isolated galaxies that were generally sparsely inhabited. It was there that they remained for a very long time. It was there that they slowly, over the centuries, began new generations of themselves. And these ones have learned the truth. In order to control any world, they must be able first to control their minion. And thus it was that they educated their offsprings in a far different manner. They sought to raise children of intelligence and cunning. Not for a moment had they forsaken their previous plan of domination of worlds. They simply formulated a different plan with the same objective. And these ones have been able to evolve and inhabit many different worlds that are parallel Earths. They have learned to utilize powers and mankind's greed to their own advantage. They have formed insidious cartels, used technologies which is highly advanced to influence humans to aid them in all their endeavors. The Illuminati long ago aligned with the Greys, a race of star keepers that is facing its demise. The Greys are today what the ancient opponents once were, still robotic in nature and yet very intelligent. However, the Greys succeeded where the former beasties could not. It is the Illuminati which has now today been able to govern your government, your religions, your militaries, your CIA. It is the average ordinary persons on the Earth star planet that joins these groups and organizations totally unwittingly, not in the least aware that they are joining the beast. What you'd see, the Grey, for example, is the Borg. When they assimilate a being into this mechanical structure, that is what the Greys are. They are used to be humans or humanoids that is grafted into a robotic kind of apparatus and become what they are, Greys. So they're human looking, but they are robotic in their core and not very much high intelligence. Most of them, these nature ones, are the short ones, shorter than 5 feet 3 inches or shorter is the Grey. They do have leaders that are Greys that are taller, but there's fewer tall Greys than are short Greys. So anyone that is 5 feet 3 and shorter is a Grey, more or less. Now, these men and women in command of these cults do not, for the most part, know the true nature of either. The certain individuals or selected are chosen to know, and this is these ones who then are owned by the Illuminati, no different than all the president's men. They have been, and they are, and will continue to be those who accidentally learn the true realities prevalent on the Earth-star planet. The whistleblowers, have been strategically placed to learn, expose, and most to die for their truth. They are the few who are willing to live their beliefs. They are prepared to die a physical death in order to exist the balance of the scales. And this separates them from the Earth-star citizens. Everyone knows how to die, but not everyone knows how to live. The beginning of the 19th century, dissatisfaction among the Illuminati occurred. They have failed to foresee that their own descendants would themselves become greedy and unsatisfied with sharing of others' Illuminati. It was an auspicious timing for the Creator God, and in his wisdom he allowed these ones to take the action that all those of lower realms take. The viper always turns upon the host when it can no longer receive the sustenance it craves. So it was that the faction was formed some separated and linked to the political arena in a parasitic fashions. Others chose to be like-minded with the debauchery which was taking place in the medical fields of that time. Others cleverly chose a female species to contaminate to the teachings of lustful life. Each faction was determined to win. These ones were smart enough to know that none of them could engage in battle against the other. They were determined to ensure the survival of their species. That was innate natural instinct. Thus those who would be king, those who would be queen, those who would be presidents would carefully watch until such time as they came into power and were ready to ascend to power. It was then that strategic assassinations, murders most foul did occur. It was then that Humpty Dumpty fell off the wall, and all the king's horse and all the king's men could not put him back together again.